Hey guys, how's it going? Fluffy here. Making a quick demo guide on the Demonology Warlock. To start off with, we're going to go over stat priority, and then we're going to go over talents, burst rotation, and the different builds so that you can actually do for Demonology and PvP currently this season. For stat priority, you want to prioritize haste over mastery and over crit. Reason for this is haste directly affects yourself and your pets as a Demonology Warlock. Haste increases your natural casting speed and the tick rate of your Doom. Your Doom is going to be one of your hardest hitting spells and one of your main ways of generating soul shards to time along with your burst. For artifact traits, you're going to want to go down the right side. I'm currently spec for PvE because I've been doing PvE to help gear and raise my item level for the start of the season. But you'll want to go down the right side. The main traits you want to work towards are Double Doom and Expendables. If you're going down the right side, you would also want to get Firm Resolve. If you're going to follow this side, which I recommend not doing, only if you're going to be PvEing also, the only trait I would recommend working towards fast as possible would be Summoner's Prowess, which is the first trait you go towards. The reason for this is because the haste and the health provided from Demonic Empowerment is further increased by 6%, which will help your burst in PvP and help your consistent damage in PvE. That's that pretty much explained. There's not much else to know other than the reason you go for Expendables is with the amount of imps you're going to be summoning in PvP, you'll always have a constant uptime on the 10% damage increase from the Expendables, which further increases the damage of your overall pets, including your Felguards, your Dreadstalkers, and your Dark Glare. If you're going to go down the right side, you'll want to work into Dreadfang straight away, and then you'll want to go straight into Soulskin, Firm Resolve, Legion Wrath, Dirty Hands, Double Doom, and then the Expendables. I would say get Failcale's Discord, but it's very inconsistent for PvP. It does a fair bit of damage, it's just very easily avoided with moving. Like, they can just simply move out of it. It's not got a very large radius. Now for talents, there is actually 3 possible builds that you can do for arenas currently. The first build is actually just a simple zoo build for Warlocks. You'll start with Shadow Flame because it's a consistent generating shards on a very low recharge rate. The dots is nothing really to be aiming towards, the damage isn't the greatest. The on-demand damage is nice I guess, but the actual dot itself isn't. It just ties really well in with your rotation of maintaining pets, and it works really well alongside with Power Trip. For your 30 tier, you would go for improved Dreadstalkers, because normal Dreadstalkers are pretty useless, but along with this talent, they could do a fair amount of damage. Not a lot to be like, oh wow, that's a lot of damage, but with your other pets all hitting at the same time, it helps ramp up that pressure, which it also helps improve the HP pool of your Dreadstalkers. That increases the damage of your consumption. Demon Skin is the only one currently viable on the 45 tier. If they ever increase the range of War Coil, might be able to use that, but 20 yard range is nothing really to be taken for CC, because it will just force you to come out of LOS, you will get CC'd, you'll get burst, you just become very vulnerable without Demon Skin. It's a massive shield. I mean, right now it's at 360k. Inside arenas it'll be around 400k. It's too good. On the 60 tier, we're taking Power Trip over Soul Harvest, mainly because it's bugged at the minute, and because it ties really well with Empowerment, because you're going to be casting Empowerment a lot with the Zoo build. But the reason this is bugged, and I shall show you currently, is because if I was standing here, and the target is there, I can tell my pet to go attack that target, stop casting straight away, and use Power Trip, and I'm still getting the shards for it. Your pet doesn't actually have to reach the target, it just has to tell it to attack. Which is good, because you can stay LOS at the start of arena, tell your pet to go attack something, call it back instantly, and you can just keep getting yourself some free shards before anything even happens in arena. Now, the reason we're taking Dark Pact over Demonic Circle in the 75 tier, especially as Demonology, is because it's a massive shield. In comparison to Demonic Circle, this will save you a lot more than Demonic Circle would currently. In 7.1, Demon Skin and Demonic Circle are actually swapping places, so you'll be running Demonic Circle, plus Dark Pact, so it's quite nice. And with the way Demonology works, if you empower your Felguard, it gains an increase to health by 56%, and then if you Dark Pact on top of that, the shield's actually increased even further. For the Grimoire section of the talents, there's only two really in here that you would ever take as Demonology, and that is Service and Synergy. With this build, Service could be nice with the extra Felguard, it's just an extra shard you have to worry about, which you won't have uptime for at all. But Synergy buffs you and your Felguard, so overall this is just better. There's not much really else to be said on that, it's just better hands down. For the level 100 tier, you get Dark Glare. This is just an extra pet, so it buffs your consumption. It hits targets that are only affected by Doom, which is, you have to know that, make sure you have Doom up before you summon Dark Glare, otherwise it's just useless. The damage isn't amazing, it's just like having an extra dot, so like a weak version of Doom hitting the target. But the real reason you take it is because it buffs consumption's damage. For the rotation for this build, I'll show you now, is very simple, very consistent, and very bursty if you can get it off. You'll start by applying Doom, you build your soul shards up with Shadow Bolt, then you'll hand a gold down into double Shadow Flame, then you'll summon your Dreadstalkers and your Dark Glare, you'll empower. If Power Trips gives you an extra shard, you'll either Doom Guard or Infernal, empower again, and then Consumption. Consumption hit for 810k, if it crits it can hit for around 1.3 mil. This would be your basic arena build, the one that you'll use most in arena, unless you're running a burst comp like Arcane Mage or something like Assassination Rogue for freeze. The PvP talents that I take with this build, for honor talents, this is for facing casters, so Gladiator's Medallion. Mind Quickness for the extra haste, which is really important. It really helps with getting your imps out, your pets out, and increasing your overall haste in Arena for Fears. It's amazing. The only two tiers that you really have variety in are this tier with Neverward and Essence Drain, and this tier with your curses. You'll take Curse of Tongues whenever you're facing casters, so Mage Shadow Priest, Mage Warlock, just casters in general. If there's any bursty melee on the enemy team, you'll take Weakness just to reduce that damage. If you're facing a comp that you think you can just flat out beat in damage and in CC, take Fragility, because you just put Fragility on before you start your burst rotation, and then that's extra HP that they're missing, and you can just kill them off quicker. But for the most part, you'll be switching between these two. For the next tier, Essence Drain, Casting Circle, and Neverward. Essence Drain, you'll only ever take this if you're facing double melee, so Feral Warrior, Feral DK, Feral Windwalker, anything that can just hold you down, stun you, burst you, and get rid of you in seconds. Just because it's a stacking debuff for using Drain Life. It will stack up to 50%, along with weakness, that'll be 75% damage reduction you're not taking. Side note for this, if the target has an absorb on them, it will not put the debuff on them because it needs to heal you. So the damage is absorbed, it will not heal you. Then the debuff will not be stacked. Casting Circle, you'll only take this if you're against casters and they don't have any CC that forces you to move. For example, Polymorph, Fear, etc. Stuff that forces you to move out of the circle, just because it's got a 30-second cooldown and it lasts 10 seconds, so if you can get this down, you can stack your burst up and not have to worry about getting interrupted or feared during your burst. It's just a big pain in the backside. If you put this down and they fear you out of it, that's just an extra talent that you're not taking. It end up being more worth just taking Neverward. For Neverward, you just take that against any caster. If there's a Boomkin, there is no point taking this. It does not reflect their burst. They can just use Full Moon straight into Neverward and it will not spell reflect it. You'll take all the damage. If there's any mages on the enemy team, you'll take this. If there's any Resto Druids on the enemy team, you'll take this. You can spell reflect polymorphs, cyclones. Really great for countering the pressure. You can reflect a cyclone and then instantly the pressure is on your guy's side of the field. You can just turn the fight and start getting your ramp up damage, getting your burst out, and completely start CC chaining them instead. It's great. The only talent you'll ever take on the next tier is Cool Fell Hunter. Since magic is not that good, you're never going to have an imp out, as in your personal imp, not the Hand of Gold down imps. You're never going to have a succubus out in arena. You're just only ever going to use Cool Fell Hunter. It gives you an interrupt as a demo lock, which is something that we've been seriously needing. It's a shame that this is coming in on the talents and we don't get a second pet that we can summon instead of a Fell Guard that gives us an interrupt, but this will do. On the next line, you get Master Summoner, Fell Lord, or Observer. The only two talents here that are good are Fell Lord and Observer. Fell Lord against melee, that way you won't get overran by melees. And Observer versus any caster comp. This spell is great and very underrated. Observer, if there's a Fire Mage or a Shadow Priest or anything that have to weave global cooldowns to get their burst out, only on casters though, it does not affect melees too well. It can really counter their pressure and make them have to wait to burst. It does 5% of the target's health every time they use a GCD on a spell, so Fire Mage is using Fire Blast, Pyroblast, Earth Ball, Dragon's Breath, etc. It does work against some melee, so if a Windwalker is casting a Fuse, if a Death Knight is using Wraithwalk, it works on that, but it's not better than the alternative against melee. Fell Lord, the reason you use this against melee is it counters the pressure. If they're popping cooldowns and they're trying to burst you, and you can just put down Fell Lord on either yourself or the person they're trying to burst, it does a knockdown that is not on the DR with any other stun or knockdown in the game, and does a ton of damage, anywhere between 400k to 600k crits. It's great for countering the pressure. Those are the honor talents that you'll take mostly with this build, and with any build as Demo Lock. The honor talents will not change that often because you'll be running into the same comps most likely. The other build that is viable in Arena currently is the Implosion build, which looks like this. You'll take Shadow Flame for the same reasons that you do with the Zoo build. It's just great instant shards, not that strong on damage, but it ties really nicely with Burst. Implosion, because that's what this build is built around. Demon Skin for the same reasons. Soul Harvest instead of Power Trip because it gives you pack behind your punch when it comes to your burst. Dark Pack for the same reasons as the other build. Synergy for the exact same reasons, it's just nice damage. And Soul Conduit for the RNG on getting your Soul Shards back, which can increase your burst even further. What this would look like in PvP for rotation wise, you'll do the same thing. You put Doom up, you'll Shadow Bolt to full shards, Hand of Gul'dan into 2 Shadow Flames, you build up another shard, Hand of Gul'dan again, Empower with Soul Harvest, Consumption, and Implode. It didn't look like it does much damage, but it does a lot more than it shows down here. This is also being buffed. I don't know why Blizzard are buffing it, but in the next hotfix, they are buffing Implosion damage by 10% and Doom damage by 10%. The other way you can burst with this is I'll wait for the Soul Shards to generate down, is you'll Shadow Bolt to full again, you'll Hand of Gul'dan and summon Infernal, Shadow Bolt and Shadow Flame to 4 shards, Hand of Gul'dan again, Empower and Consumption. Wait for Consumption's cooldown and I shall show you how you do this. If Soul Harvest is not on cooldown, you will also use that on top, but it's on cooldown so I'll have to show you without. Apply Doom, Shadow Bolt, Hand of Gul'dan, Infernal, Shadow Bolt to 4 again with Shadow Flame, Empower, Consumption, Implosion. Honor talents are exactly the same as the last build. The only thing different is you will never use Dreadstalkers. With Implosion, it is very important that you never use Dreadstalkers. It's a waste of shards. You get more damage out from imploding 2 more imps than you would casting Dreadstalkers. There is another build that you can run. This is a variation of both the builds put together, and all that changes is that you take Dark Glare and Power Trip. reason for this is it adds consistent pressure outside of burst, and it removes the RNG factor of Soul Conduit. The reason why Dark Glare is good with this build is because Dark Glare itself can do alright pressure on its own on a single target, opposed to having mixed pressure with all your pets. So what this would look like is like this. You Doom, you Shadow Bolt to full, Hand of Gul'dan into Dark Glare, into double Shadow Flame, into another Hand of Gul'dan with only 2 imps, Empower, Consumption, Implode. Does a little bit less burst damage, but it adds more damage outside of burst, which is good if you're playing something like RLS or FLS. Honor talents for this build are also exactly the same as the other build, you'll just change it depending on the comp you're running against. All the stat priority is the same for each build, Hate Smash to Crit. That's pretty much it for the demo guide. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments or come check me out on my stream, which I'll put a link in the description. Thank you very much.